reflects those hero changes. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see the mirror.
Very likely here, and I mean, it's going to come down to execution for Uprising. We'll see if they can evolve over the course of the series, but right now, second win, they've just been looking remarkably more solid in this setup of play. But for Uprising, there's a little bit of a change up here. They're going to be running a swimmer on the Ana.
They're running the double slow healer, maybe? No, they were just having the Ana to peek out. You see, sometimes if you see the D.Va peeking, you can get the sleep, try to get that frag. Shriek as well on the Winston for second win, so trying to get that cleave damage as Uprising enter the point here. Shriek already 30% going to back, or 26%. It's going to catch them on this next door again.
And it's pretty decent poking out here from second win, where Uprising isn't necessarily getting through for free. They just gave a lot of ult charge. Shriek already halfway to his goal, and this has been well played by second win so far.
I think Uprising, I mean, they're stacking up here. They're ready to come out. They're going to try to pressure the point. Shriek, Gods doing a lot of poke damage. Shriek already 75% to that primal.
Uprising now going to move over to the point. Punk eating a lot of damage. They have to invest the armor pack onto him early to get him back over and up. And second win, they're just waiting for Shriek to get primal.
Caught.
He goes really deep. He thought he could get primal in time. Instead, stunned and taken down. So close yet so far. And now this is going to be very, very difficult for second win to bring back. Everything is in favor of Uprising now. And as long as Punk stays alive, they should be good.
Well, right now it's still going to be second win contesting the point. Iced is down, so that's it. Second win. They need to die on point. They need to try to actually, if anything, they need to be staggered here because look how many ticks already for Uprising. Look at these late frags. They could realistically snowball. However, Punk is down, so it is going to be a 5v6.
That's about the only thing that is in second win's favor right now. Uprising, where they were able to isolate Shriek, take him down early, and no Primal Rage comes out. And
that's the whole goal. When you're Uprising Academy and you're playing the Reinhardt instead of that Winston on the offense, really you're trying to find, if possible, Shriek when he's making those rotations, when he's getting that cleave damage.
So Uprising now going to be taking the high ground to the right. Moving still on the right-hand side. Some splitting off towards the middle. Second win, holding back. Rally going to be invested here. Bird finds Dino early before things can really get hot and heavy. Uprising already down a player, and it's a quick retreat. They don't want to fight this without Transcendence to the bag.
I mean, they can't. They simply can't because Discord, the healing, so valuable. On top of that, if Ice were to commit the grab, they don't have a trance. So they were just going to be losing more time, more players, more ult charge. Good pickoff from Bird, who's looked increasingly better as the series has gone on.
And it's the playmaking power of Zen, where Zen, it feels like he's playmaking pretty much any meta Zen, but Zen's really taken it up a notch in recent times.
They really have. I mean, it's just sort of the transformation of the hero, sort of like we saw main tank earlier throughout all of competitive Overwatch history. Uprising here on the point, looking to fight.
Well, they're looking for the early grab. Eden on the other side, asking. Loses his grab, self-destruct from Gods on the top, finish off Hypnot, and second win should be all they need here. Uprising just trying to get out if they can. The others falling back to the respawn room the hard way. And again, really well done by second wind, and Gods just all over these grabs.
Denying Asking's grabs right there. I mean, Ice had popped that grab very early, caught Uprising as they approach the point, and Asking just tries to throw the counter grab. He's caught in the grab. He tries to throw it to try to deny the cleanup from the second wind, and Gods is watching for it.
And the thing is, Gods, he's paying a slight price for this. He's not using defensive Matrix as much as he normally was D.Va, but in return, he's ready to just react to any Zarya grab that comes out.
Now, Hello trying to deny that rotation from Uprising. There's the beat from Swimmer. They're trying to be so aggressive here onto Shriek.
Well, they're moving in. They're trying to get presence to the point. Hypnot, though, going to get isolated and down. Bird with a great position to pick up three, one after the other, and Bird has just been ripping Uprising apart.
To be fair, Bird had an easy 3K there because everyone was on the ground. Shriek placing them all there with the help of Speedily, who was able to set up that shatter. So that was really just Bird cleaning up. He was just doing it for free. It was like Duck Hunt.
Yeah. And more importantly for that and the cleanup, it's going to be 91%. He's going to have Transcendence for the next fight.
They will Asking not even close to that grab yet either. So second one could feel comfortable in even popping the Transcendence first because Bird has been building him extremely quickly. He could get another one up before Asking gets that first grab.
This is probably going to be Uprising's best attempt, moving in with the rally. And again, even moving at the rally, they don't put tons of pressure in the beginning, but they do find Shriek towards the end. Dino got a good angle, finishes off Shriek, and now second win. They're going to have to invest just about everything they have.
However, Asking, they're going to have grab after this trance. There's no support holds up for second win.
Graviton going to be moving in. Ice already down. Gods with the self-destruct to the skies. Not going to get what he's looking for. Uprising now taking control of the point in a very decisive way. God's able to find Hypnot, but they're going to need more. It's about...
Bird wins the 1v1.
Bird on the side! Bird able to make that just swing the other way for second win just when it's looking like Uprising has a good chance.
So smart from Bird. He uses the trance in that fight. Obviously, he recognizes that he needs to make a play afterwards. They won't be able to hold. He rotates through the right flank from the Mega Pack, flanks Dino, gets the frag, and then when Klaus turns around, picks up Klaus as well. Huge play from Bird.
That's a backbreaker for Uprising. That's the fight that they went in with a reasonable advantage. They need the win. Now they only have 3 minutes to try and pull something back.
Now Uprising moving in here. They don't have any big ults to their name. Second win, they have this rally before Klaus as well. They could win the frontline war very easily.
Second win, holding a little bit back. Pop the rally in response to pressure. Uprising, Punk dropping the self-destruct right down the middle. And Sharik gonna fall early. Man advantage now to Uprising, and more importantly, they're able to stabilize. Second win, gonna use Barrier just to stay alive here. God's in real danger of getting demeched, and Uprising, we'll see if they can take advantage of this. Barrier's up in reserve.
Early trance.
Yeah, not only is it trance early, but they're gonna Barrier to keep themselves up for Uprising, and now they can transcend their own. Second win, they're in such a tough spot now. Hypnot gonna drop the Shatter. They get speedily, and asking scrap though, Eden, God's on top of him once more, even as the rest of his team is losing the sustain fight.
Ice does the counter grab late. Dino doesn't have the trance. They just popped it, but they're gonna live now. Too much sustain up for Uprising. This should be the point flip. Second win, despite everything going so wrong for them. A good stagger, a decent hold.
Second wind just finding good ways of delaying even when you think it's all over, where now it is almost certainly over, but we'll see. God's moving in, drops a self-destruct, and no, not able to stand the point quite long enough, but that should have been Uprising's regardless there towards the very end.
I mean, it was. Their only hope there was Shriek was coming back with that Shatter. Gods was there. You see that actually they could have potentially held it if they managed to touch the point a little bit sooner, because Shriek's back with the Shatter, places several members of Uprising on the ground while Gods is bombing. They're looking up, but because Gods is up in the air, he's not able to contest point.
So I talked about it a little bit there, but let me just ask you this. Is there anything that Uprising take advantage of here, particularly in the poke war, where with how Gods is playing, where Gods has been all on top of these grabs, but you think about how defensive Matrix works right now, that does come at a penalty, right? If you're ready for any grab, you're not isolating as much poke damage as you normally would. So there is a price being paid here, but so far Gods seemingly is walking the line really well.
Yeah, you do have to walk the line is the key. You can, if you're a diva that doesn't have a very good grasp of when engages are going to happen, you will lose that cooldown, especially with those nerfs to the Matrix. You will lose that Matrix cooldown, that Matrix time that's up. But God seems to have a very strong understanding of when Zarya's are going to be looking for grabs. You can tell based off the body language, based off the positioning, and even just what ults have been used for the opposing team. So if you recognize when those ults are going to be looked to be used, when that grab in particular is trying to be set up, then you can minimize the amount of Matrix that you actually lose.
And it's just been remarkable game sense where this isn't just an asking thing, right? Gods was also doing this all last week. It's something that God so far has been excelling at, where, okay, the final gravity didn't matter a whole lot, but just the mere principle of the thing. He's been smothering asking.
Yes, he has. He's been really on top of asking here, denying him a lot of value from those ults. Second win here on the defense. Ice trying to do the similar play where, you drop that speed, doesn't really get anything. And also something interesting to note, Uprising going to be playing the double hit scan setup with the Mercy Xin, trying to give that damage with value to Asking and Klaus. Asking, a very strong hit scan player.
He is absolutely incredible on hit scan heroes, particularly single shot hit scan heroes, Widow, McCree, Ash when he's on it. But Uprising, we'll see if they're able to make this work. It puts a lot of pressure on Asking to either get heavy headshot damage on the tanks or outright picks pretty much at all times, but he's executing here so far, putting a lot of pressure on the Gods, and Gods gonna get demeched early, in no small part due to the Widow pressure.
And with Gods out of mech, the hit scan players for Uprising, those double damage dealers, just Bird catches Asking, but there's a res up. It's fine, Swimmer can get the res, and really right now for Uprising, denying Gods is a huge part of their play because it's someone that can contest the high ground, the Matrix can deny the hit scan damage, so when Gods is out of mech, Uprising becomes infinitely scarier.
So Uprising so far making this DPS heavy setup work pretty well. Sharik eating a lot of damage, where as a tank, when you're dealing with these DPS characters, you have to rein in how aggro you go. It's a more burst, and Sharik taken down.
Oh my goodness.
Once more by Asking from the back.
Plucked by Asking off of the Bob charge. Bob comes in, throws him up. Bob gonna be taking out Bird there as well. Great ult from Klaus. The Bob being thrown directly into the second wind, just all of their tanks, and throwing them up around, moving them, displacing them, also putting Sharik in position for Asking to take him out.
So this has been very good from Uprising here so far. And second wind, I mean, should they stand the 3-3, or do you consider swapping something?
Well, I mean, something to notice here for Uprising's comp is that there's no Brigitte on the field. You could be playing Genji, you could be playing Tracer, and being on top of this Mercy Zen, on top of those double hit scan heroes.
Second win, they're going to stick with what they have right now. Shriek diving in once more. You know, and again, for Shriek, the goal is don't let Asking do a ton of your HP from afar. Going to be diving in on the problem, moving for Asking, but the support for Asking is really good. They push Shriek back. You're going to have Winston and Hypnot chase him down, but Hypnot getting pretty low, even mid-primal. It's a big health pull. It's not invincibility. Has to back up, get healed. Shriek going to be going in again, this time going to get Klaus. Primal in reserve. Even with the rest, this is looking really good for second win as Shriek goes even deeper.
Punk gets that frag onto
Asking
Halo.
though.
God's bomb, not great value. Asking gets Gods while he's out of Meg. That's it.
That was the key part there, is that even second win having more pressure, they drop the self-destruct. Gods is vulnerable, he gets picked off by the Widow, and Ice still in the fight. Finds
this Bob's so big though. This Bob is so big for Klaus, and it gives them the point presence they need, the health pool they need. Shriek, he has no cooldowns. He's trying to live. He's getting poked so hard.
Oh, and again, Asking. He does fall, but not before chunking Shriek one last time. It's time for Uprising, though. Second Wind is winning the battle of attrition. Respawns are coming in, and they're slowly getting control of this point.
I called it a little bit too early. Ice got so much value there. He gets the grab onto Asking, able to pick up 3 players. Or not 3 players, but 2 players. He's also just fragging without the grab, doing so much. Punk gonna remech behind, but you notice second Wind are moving forward, leaving Punk behind them.
This is real bad. This is really bad. Punk is so far away from the fight. Second Wind gets a free 6-on-5. They drop the barrier. Fast break deep into Uprising territory. They're going to get the pickups they need. And Punk finally comes back to the fight, but it's a little bit late. Party invitation was an hour ago. You are not here in time.
Punk is 2!
Casual entrance in the back, but I don't think that's going to be enough.
The spawns, they could definitely still recontest as long as they don't stagger Klaus. He needed to live there. He needed to wait for the rest of his team.
It's too, I still think it might be too decisive. They're going in one by one. It's still just a party group of 4 welcoming all guests as they move in. And the self-destruct from Gods buys even more room, gets Asking, and now second Wind reinforcing. This is going to be second Wind throwing this to extra rounds.
Oh my goodness, Dino had 96%. He could not get a shot off. He would have gotten trance. I can't believe Ice got so much value on first despite the fight breaking down for Uprising. Ice just did so much. I made the call too early because I did not think Ice would literally 90 LG that to victory.
Well, that's also the difference when you're up against a comp that isn't as tanky, is that, you know, it's easy to forget in recent Overwatch happenings where you're running a 3-3 comp and teams don't make a lot of comebacks. But when you're playing against a comp that's not 3-3, people are squishier. You can find a way to get back in the fights even when you're somewhat wounded going in, and that's certainly what they did there. But, you know, I'd say it's 2 parts there towards the end, and how second Wind was able to take point B so quickly. Yes, Ice put them over the top on point A and gave them sort of a fast break situation, but Punk, he just needed to throw himself off the ledge a lot earlier.
I mean, you know, I agree with that, but at the same time, Punk somehow got both supports with that bomb, and if Klaus had decided to wait, give up more cap time, and regroup with his team, I actually think a recontest would have been possible for Uprising.
I mean, yes, he got 2 at the bomb, but I still look at that and go, you know, it would have been better than the bomb there. Punk being with his team and being able to drop the bomb where they could have backed up and went in as a team.
But if he had dropped off the map or later, instead of remeching, he still would have been respawning for that upcoming fight.
I think the difference there is that they still could have held back a little bit longer. Like,
I mean, either way, they give up ticks, right?
Yeah.
So either way, at the end of the day, they were going to give up ticks. It's just 2 different methods that they really could have done.
Uprising, though, we'll see what they do here as we move in the extra rounds. Only a minute 30 to move forward. Not running anything DPS heavy on the attack. Instead, moving forward in 3-3. And Shriek, we'll see if he has a little bit more success this time around.
Shriek already kind of low, taking a lot of poke damage. He has to be careful. He is so low. Manages to get out.
The problem for Shriek is that he managed to get out, but he's already 20% below where he was last time. Last time he didn't get Primal in time either, so Uprising in a really nice spot here.
Look how aggressive
Dino gets caught.
Gods and Shriek notice that the rest of Uprising fall. They're chasing Bird, and they get that frag. Now, Uprising, they've swapped sides. They're controlling the Mega Pack. Second Wind, they still hold point, though.
It's 5-on-5. Uprising pushed into a corner, but because it's 5-5, they can actually head back out. They're not at the disadvantage they thought they might have been. Shriek eating a lot of damage, so is Gods. Frontline second Wind very weak right now, and they're not able to protect speedily. So this is starting to get very rough, even if Shriek does get a Primal up in time. Uprising, just too much meat on the point.
I mean, Shriek literally has to get Primal if second Wind are going to control this point. He's not. He's going to decide to jump off the map instead, recognizing that it's over. Uprising taking that frag. They trade the Zins, But then in return, because Hypnot is alive on that Ryan, he's healthy, that means that they could just slowly win that point battle with Hypnot for Uprising Academy.
Uprising doing significantly better towards the end of that fight. Now we'll see if they can snowball in under a minute. But rally and grab about to be up.
Uprising should be recognizing they have this rally advantage. They need to be taking this early grab. There's the early grab from Asking. There aren't any support ults up for second win.
Really good aggression.
But they force trance.
Well, the Transcendence is forced, but they still get so many early that I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot. Yes, Gods is going to drop the self-destruct in the back, and it was good to force the Transcendence, but it's too decisive. Yeah. They aren't able to delay it.
And they finish with time. Yeah. And they finish with time left.
4 points in the very end.
That's crazy. That's the even the better part of it is not only do they cap another 2 points, they full cap, but they have finished with time left.
So Uprising able to go back in. It looks like we are going to have a pause.
Just a quick pause, maybe some sort of technical issue on there, and who really knows?
Technical issue, sudden bathroom break. You know, who knows? We can merely speculate.
We can merely speculate, but so far, huge play. I mean, Uprising looking a lot better.
Yeah.
On Volskaya. I mean, even on Blizzard, where it was extremely close, they just had such a lackluster offense. So looking much better on Volskaya here. They have a much clearer direction. Also, something that's hurting Second Wind on their defenses in particular is Shariq on the Winston is not getting primals fast enough.
No.
If you're playing Winston on that first defense versus the Reinhardt setup, you need to be building primals extremely quick. That cleave damage is coming through very, very fast, and he's not getting the value he needs.
Well, and also, it went from bad to worse in the most literal sense of the term, where you think about their first defense, he was close to primal. He was within about 10%, and he ended up falling on the final dive where Winston's will go, okay, I have good faith belief that I will get primal before I fall here. Doesn't get it, doesn't do enough damage, ends up dying on first. But then you go to the second defense, and Shariq gets way less. Doesn't get the same level of cleave as they're going through that side area, heading to the high ground. And as the fight progresses, just gets nowhere close to primal before eventually it's too much damage onto the second wind front line, and it just goes downhill from there, because you'll always see it on the health bars, right? Where you look at the main tanks, when you see both the Diva and the main tank, whether it be Winston and Ryan, get low, that's where it's not just the tanks you look at, because the healers now are focusing on the tanks to save them, to bail them out. That's where you see other people fall, like the Brigida or the back line, because you can't save everyone at the same time. And if your tanks are commanding that because they got outpoked, well, stuff just tends to collapse.
It does. It does tend to collapse there. But Second Wind, still waiting here for them to get back in. They're still at also a significant time advantage. I mean, regardless of how Uprising is looking better, their time advantage for Second Wind is still pretty huge coming into their next offense. So they have a lot of time to work with, especially if they move as quick through that first offense, like their second offense, like they did their first.
The funny thing about it is that it doesn't even feel like a game that Second Wind should be having a time bank advantage, because of how good the defense was on point A coming in from Uprising, where they made the DPS setup work pretty well. The problem is that all the good work you do on point A is totally forgotten when you just get rolled on point B, and it was a very unfortunate rotation and circumstance that they had there where they just weren't able to fight a 6.
Oh, yeah. Also off the back of, like we talked about, Iced. That performance, he's high charge Zarya. He's able to hit a great snipe, a great grab onto Asking, caps on Mercy with it as well, though it doesn't necessarily directly finish him in the grab. He finishes him after. So Ice just staying alive that entire time on first, not being denied. And sometimes you have a lot of trouble getting value as Zarya when you're playing against those very mobile defenses, those high ground defenses, because you can't contest them. You're stuck on low ground. Like you can't move back and forth like Winston, like Diva. You're really relying on those dive tanks to do most of the work on the high ground for you. So you're just sitting on point, just like swiveling about like a turret, and there's nothing much you can do. But Ice was actually able to get so much value on the point and then get the grab on the high ground.
And again, we talked about mid-cast, but you think about why that was able to happen, and you go, well, gee, that was a great comeback in the middle of the fight. Why does this happen? Why don't we see that all that often? Is that part of why 3-3 is so strong right now is that it's almost comeback proof. Everything is so tanky, the sustain is so good, that when you have a man advantage, it's difficult for someone like Ice, right, to make that big hero play and bring it back. But they weren't running against a normal 3-3. They're running against something we haven't seen as much, which is a more DPS-heavy composition.
I mean, the 2-2-2.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. And it means that you can take people down quickly and actually flip a fight that you're losing.
Yes, when you have less health on the field, when you have less sustain on the field, then, I mean, it's a lot easier for someone to just get a frag and just pop off. So it is, you know, you can do more. Now, obviously, there's, like, pros and cons and, like, different play styles. Obviously, you have to examine, like, various things. But pretty much the gist of it is when there's less health on the field, it's easier to kill things.
Yeah.
So
Very simple math. Forehead.
Very simple math. Four mansion. When there's less health, it's much easier to get through it.
It's math so easy that even us here at NA, we can do it.
Yeah, NA math still can do it.
Yeah. That is what we're doing it. But guys, we are just waiting for the players to work through a few technical difficulties right now, and we'll be going in. We don't really know what it is, but it's online broadcasting. We can speculate as to what it is.
Make all sorts of crazy statements.
I know Avast, you recently had a recent not an article, but just a stream retelling of Stomach Boom. Stomach Boom is a real phenomenon that affects players.
Stomach boom Stomach boom can be a possible cause of any sort of pause.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a pretty severe stomach boom though to happen during the match. It would have to be like a true stomach explosion, a stomach Krakatoa. So it would have to be a very different scenario.
Well, a player goes in and is like, no, it's fine. Like, I'll wait till after. And it's like, wow, I really should have had the spicy noodles way before.
I mean, but we've also seen in Overwatch League when Jonak says that he had a stomach boom mid match versus Shock, and apparently it propelled him to greatness. Just having that problem.
Yeah, Shock had some choice comments about that, but we don't have to go in depth on that situation because the game is ready. If there was stomach boom, it's over now.
Moving back in here to Volskaya. We are on the second offense for Second Wind. They have a little over 4 minutes in the time bank. So not at all a problem, even though they would have preferred not to let Uprising not only full cap for their second offense, but have time left over.
So we'll see just what Second Wind does here, where I think it is likely that we'll be seeing another set of rounds. So just when you think that the match is going to be, oh man, it's a really quick match, you know what? It is always on Assault where things tend to go a little bit longer, especially if both teams are playing well. Or I guess not. Both teams don't have to be playing well, just both teams have to be playing offense well and defense not so well.
I mean, it's the classic dichotomy of like, if teams are really good, then you have a really good match that lasts a while because they're so good. But then if teams are really bad, then your match also lasts a long time because neither team can play defense properly. So you just back and forth forever until someone makes the first mistake.
Where this match lands is up for you guys to decide. But Second Wind going to be heading out here, and it's going to be Sharik on the Winston for both the offense and the defense.
Second Wind now moving to this choke. Uprising running Hypnot on that Reinhardt again for the defense, so they're not going to be able to easily contest the entry here for Second Wind. Second Wind are going to be looking to try to maybe catch some of the backline of Uprising, maybe get Hypnot out of position. You see them holding the high ground here, so a lot of poke damage out for Uprising.
Uprising is very firmly winning the poke battle right now. Second Wind not even through the archway.
They're actually going back.
Yeah,
Sharik going to be just swapping to this Reinhardt instead.
Then like the Winston play here, why do you think that is?
I mean, it's a lot tougher to get a lot of value onto the backline in 3-3 as Winston. There's just so much sustain, and also you need to fight the point, so having Hypnot getting ready to contest the point means you can just fight him directly with your own eye.
Well, Second Wind, they don't go for anything crazy. They just rotate to the point, looking for the isolation. Hypnot super low, but healed back just in the nick of time. Klaus, though, in trying to buy space, went for the stun, bought the space, but ends up giving his life. So Uprising, it's still not going to work out super well for them here. Second Wind, off a quick rotation engage, going to be grabbing point A.
However, they will not be able to move extremely quickly to that last because they lost two. They lost both Speedily and Bird for Second Wind. They're going to have to wait for those respawns, and not only that, they have to go grab them from spawn.
That's actually insane that Bird almost has Transcendence here. Dino has it as well, but Uprising was winning the poke battle early, and Second Wind took a while. But Second Wind, once they went in, Bird now at 93%. He should have it for the main fight that's coming up.
And Second Wind really need to make a decision moving to the next fight. They have the early combo, which means even though Asking has grab, Punk does not have bomb. He got DMAC extremely quickly comparatively to Gods. So that means they can survive this grab from Asking and instead decide to commit some of their ults.
Okay, Gods has it right now, so you gotta imagine Iced is just going to be looking for a grab opportunity. There's the grab. Gods lobs self-destruct up. Right in the middle of it. They get Hypnot immediately. And with that burst damage, now they move forward. Transcendence on both sides used. Halo, barrier up, and it's up before the counterpart and Uprising. Second Wind, they can barrier and just easily roll over Uprising. That is absolutely perfect timing for Second Wind.
And now it's really just full delay for Uprising. Swimmer, he has beat, but Hypnots, he's made the swap onto Hammond. There's also going to be Dino. He was about to come up Tracer, but says to stay on Zin. And here comes just full delay with that beat.
Emergency Hammond going to be moving out. They got Bird! They got Bird!
Oh my goodness, Swimmer actually just made a huge pick there. Not only does he beat, he wall rides up the top, flanks Gods, doesn't recognize the flank from Swimmer, and he's on top of Bird and wins the 1v1.
That is a hero play coming out from Uprising that very well could have just saved them a point. Now only a minute 47 left for second wind. This is winnable for Uprising.
The only problem, though, is because they made those swaps for the recontest, second wind are still ahead in the ult economy game. They're close to that combo. Even if they only use grab, neither Uprising Academy support has ult.
Little aggression coming in there. Sharik, though, going to be taken down. Hypnot able to isolate, and again, second wind thrown back, and time is not on their side. Time being the absolute most important thing here, where even if they finish at the point, they're likely not going to have as much time left as Uprising did.
Well, I mean, they have to win this next fight, essentially. If they win this next fight, they will probably have more time, but if they don't, then they definitely will not. But they have the combo up. Dino's close to the trance, but trance does not save you from this combo. So it's really up to Uprising. Once again, you saw in that defense just before, they need to be aggressive, maybe force something out early for second wind.
Second wind, we'll see just how hastily they go in speedily. Gonna be using the rally here early. Iced once more, looking for the grab. Hypnot in real danger, almost falls before serious investment comes in. Graviton coming out here. Gods looking for the combo one more time. Transcendence invested here by second wind. Self-destruct gonna find Asking. Uprising, 5v6. Klaus in danger. Klaus gonna fall. Sharik moving directly in. And second wind, it is going to be a slower time here, but it is looking like we will be heading into another set of rounds, as point B should be theirs.
That should be it, as one swimmer goes down. There's going to be some contest coming in. Klaus on the Hammond, Dino coming up on the Tracer. Right now, it's just full stagger, and I think they might be able to get OT, but I find it unlikely.
Well, remember, every second that's burned off the clock here is an extra second that Uprising gets when both teams get equalized back up to a minute. So Uprising just trying to get a little bit of extra delay there. And time bank-wise, that was a good series of rounds for Uprising where they went in downtime, they leave uptime a little bit. So in terms of the back and forth battle, that's assault.
Like you said, they've essentially equalized it.
Yeah.
18 seconds, not a huge difference maker, but it can be something important.
I mean, that at times that can be the difference between an extra fight or not. It can be the difference between having more time to position well versus just rolling in and, you know, praying that something goes in your way. So
if you're this close, yes, it can. Like you said, like it can be something that changes the entire flow of this particular map.
So it's going to be second wind here on the attack once more. Their time, of course, lower than Uprising, so they have to show what they have on the attack first, which also is a pretty understated advantage here moving in, because for Uprising, they're going to know exactly what they need to do. It's unlikely that second wind will go all the way to point B, but, you know, say second wind gets 50% on point A. That can change how you approach the point, knowing that it's that versus needing to get all the way down to point B and then some.
Oh, for sure. Knowing your win condition entirely changes how you commit ults to a fight, how you approach fights, and how you manage your time.
So second wind getting ready to move out here, and so it swaps to come in on. They decide, you know what, we're going to put Sharik on Ryan to start with.
Which worked out for them pretty well on their second offense. I think they're scouting. They were still looking for the scout. You can see the rest of second wind were pretty far forward, and they were deciding what they want to do. They're saying, yes, Sharik, stay on Ryan. This is the comp we're going to run. And now second wind entering the point.
Well, they do pay a bit of a time penalty for that, so before really significant shots have been fired, we're already down about half a minute. Second wind rotating onto the point, looking for Hypnot. Early shield being used. Their shields on both sides about to fall. And Klaus
Hypnot is so deep right now.
Hypnot went deep, but he got healed up all the same, and he's getting rewarded a little bit for it as well. Speedily almost falls.
Speedily should go
down. Speedily goes down. Hypnot able to get in on him. Uprising still in good spot. If Asking can just stay alive, and he does, it's fine. Hypnot falls, but not before getting his counterpart. And Uprising, very good back and forth poke. And normally, form of attrition would be bad here, but this could still work out because there's not going to be the time as Swimmer just cleans up.
And that's going to be that. Hypnot making a huge play there, but also a misposition from Speedily. Speedily was trying to ensure that Sharik stayed alive. Hypnot went so deep there, and then he got isolated from his team. Hypnot cleans him up, and then Hypnot charges again, picks up another frag. So Hypnot opening it up for Uprising Academy.
And one thing to note here is that Uprising still absolutely needs to win this map because it is 2-0.
A tie means the series is still over. You are definitely 100% correct.
So a draw is not an ideal situation here for Uprising. It's not, we got to draw and go again. It's like, no, you got to draw. The series is done. But the upside here for Uprising is that they have a little bit more than a minute. It's a minute 18, and they only need to get 33% here.
Now, the real question, you see, Uprising, they're a team that definitely loves to put Klaus and Asking on stuff that's outside of the 3-3. They really want to use their power on those damage dealers. But the risk they run of running that damage dealer setup is that damage dealer setups almost always, unless you get early picks, take longer to cap a point. Because you do not, you have to poke, you have to prod, you have to get rid of those cooldowns, get rid of that health.
And I think that could be a pretty big downside here, where if they just ran standard 3-3, the minute 18 means that if they're quick, they would get 2 attempts at this for not the full point, but 33%, which means second wind can't really play around the point as much as they would like. This is a bit of a risky gambit coming in here for the Uprising.
I mean, extremely risky gambit because they're just hoping that their time that they have, along with the poke presence, will allow them to get that one tick. Really the only great, if there was more time on the point for second wind, I would say this was not the right play, but since they only need a tick, I think this is a pretty solid play.
Uprising already on the point. Second wind holding far back. Klaus, it's up to him to land heavy rockets here to keep the damage up. Shriek eats a lot early, gets armor packed back up. Poke battle very much in play here as Uprising trying to do enough to get 33%, but so far the poke hasn't been as decent as they want. Godzo gonna commit, going in deep, ends up getting D-maxed, and can't get the pickup he's looking for.
And that's it. Gods is out of mech, Asking picks him up, Hypnot dies, but now the devil damage dealer for Uprising, it's over. They have too much value. Klaus about that barrage, Asking has Bob.
Second wind can't contest this anymore. They have to keep someone at the point at all times. This is a problem of having to defend 33%, but they don't have the personnel. Asking throws at the Bob, gets the cleanup. It's a boot. And we still have ourselves a series here. Uprising staying alive on Volskaya.
Uprising picking up that first win of theirs in the series. It's going to be 2-1. Second win still have that one map advantage. However, Uprising, close, very close map, but much better performance from them.
Yeah. And, I mean, the other thing, too, that we can't overlook, they fought back. Where I will say, though, is that even though they fought back, it's kind of, they had one really bad error that hurt them time bank-wise, but throughout the course of the series, if you remove that error where Punk wasn't with the team there and they weren't able to fight a 6, I would say that across the board, they actually just played Volskaya better.
I would agree. And I mean, the result still stays the same because they've won Volskaya. So great job from them to recognize as well. To play, I think a lot of teams are afraid to play their strengths when it's a win condition too. But they saw there's only one tick we need. We are really comfortable with Klaus and Asking on these heroes. And also, it is hard for Volskaya first in particular for teams that are playing that static 3-3 with the Reinhardt to defend properly against all that high ground control. So a good read, it's just like we talked about, risky, because you need to sit around and poke. And if you lose anyone and you lose someone early and they get isolated, then all the time you spent poking and doing poke damage means nothing.
Well, I think the one thing that did help the DPS setup there, just to get through a little bit more thoroughly, is that you think about the way a normal 3-3 versus DPS heavy setup works on Volskaya, right? Is that the team will hide in the back and keep one person contesting the entire time. And they're most importantly, they're willing to give up ticks on the point. The problem there is that you're running a 3-3 and you can't give up any ticks on the point. You can't play the long rope-a-dope and wait for the opportunity to move in, because if you give up even one tick, the game is over. So it actually put a lot more pressure on the 3-3 than what you normally see from that setup, because they didn't have anything to give.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, exactly right. I think that we talked about that, and that's really just, smart read. Yeah. An extremely smart read from Uprising. We are moving into our final map of the series. It's going to be Escort. What's our final map of the series? It's
let's wait for the voice of God.
I guess we wait. I guess we wait to see anyways. But it's definitely Escort. Gibraltar.
Oh, Gibraltar. Actually,
that's very good for Uprising.
Yeah,
actually, that's extremely good for Uprising, because Asking is going to want to play Widow.
Also, Gibraltar in general, it feels like that's been the hidden story as we're doing 3-3, is that the map has not been in the pools, nor when teams have had the ability to select, have teams been selecting it. But Gibraltar is not a 3-3 friendly map historically. I mean, the composition is so strong that we still might see a lot of it, but Gibraltar, even as 3-3 is gaining in potential, when it was in the map pools, Gibraltar is where you brought people to be like, no, you're going to get off that and play something more akin to a 2-2-2, because the verticality gives DPS characters so much room to actually work.
It does. Pretty much the only point that really allows on Gibraltar to run that standard 3-3 composition is the last.
Yeah.
But the first 2 points, because of how heavily vertical favored it is, like you talked about, that difference, it means that you can run these sniper heroes, you can run all sorts of very mobile heroes and abuse. You can even run, Pharah, and you can just abuse how much space there is between you and the ground.
And also seeing a Torb is not entirely off the radar here, where I think back to the last few times we saw Gibraltar, teams were actually running Torb and making it work. Now, Granted, I don't think DeFran is busting through that door anytime soon. Of course, he's up in Overwatch League, but you never know.
You really don't. You never really know, but
wait till
this is probably the best possible map for Uprising to actually bring back this series is Gibraltar, though.
So taking a look at it, the one thing that has changed since the last time we saw Gibraltar be played heavily in 3-3 was meta is that teams are a lot more willing to run Winston goats, as it's been called, where obviously you have the Winston in over the Rhine. So second win, probably just going to go for that. But the interesting thing here too, where we'll see if Bird swaps or not, Gibraltar's also kind of historically been an Ana playground. It's very good for Ana.
I mean, any map, it's sort of the same reason why we see Ana on maps like Hanamura. And it's where you have extremely long sight lines. Ana just gains value because it's a lot harder to shut her down with D.Va. When there's so much space you have to get through.
And also just a lot of areas that Ana can hide and just make it a real pain to actually chase her down. So
interestingly enough, it's Halo running. I mean, they're still going to be running this 3-3 for second win, but they're not using that Xin Ana setup, which you see a lot of times on this first defense for Gibraltar.
Sharik almost got bodied super early, just had to get out. Uprising dominating a lot of space, and Uprising very clearly not going 3-3. They have double damage coming out here, 1 on projectile, 1 on the hit scan. It's Klaus and asking.
And when I see this Lucio for Halo instead of the Xin, which we see a lot, it tells me that second wind are still going to be looking for very strong engages when possible. It's just they want to get Ana value because of all these sight lines.
This is a really nice setup here for Uprising, where it's going to make second wind just feel under enormous pressure. Ash, very strong poke damage from afar, especially you add in a Bob, you even get extra point presence.
I mean, the Nano's up for second wind. They're going to look for this engage early, I bet, but a little bit of a mistime because they're contesting the high ground, but Sharik had already used jump.
Yeah, they put the Nano on the Sharik, but Sharik ate a lot of damage super early on there and ends up getting forced back. Now, he's going to have Primal up, and second wind to a degree has been doing all right at buying time, but they're very much under pressure. Shriek again just getting chunked as he moves up, almost taken down by Zen on top.
And look at
this. And Dino hunted him down.
There's also the Hanzo ult as well. Remember, there's only one defensive ult for second win. It's the beat. The rally's great, but it's not really something that can keep you alive through a lot of other ults. Pops out for Klaus. The point's been capped. Second win wasn't even able to touch the point. There was so much presence for the rest of Uprising.
It was too much pressure coming in from Uprising. And again, you want to talk about plays there. Normally, a Winston leaves you as a Zen. You go, all right, you just go ahead and leave. Dino chased that down.
And the best part about this comp for Uprising is that they were able to get the res on Dino too, even though he dies in that fight, have him on the point, and they continue to move the cart without having to wait for that spawn and get point presence so far forward here. You see, they're holding the ship. They're going to look for this early poke onto second win.
Ooh, and asking might have had an angle for a pickoff there. I mean, it would have been really close, but I like the positioning. Moving in from there. Second win. Now, God's moving on. Okay, God just ran into the room and got beaten. Drops a self-destruct in the middle of it. We'll see if he can actually get out as Baby D.Va and remech, and he's going to be able to do that, but man,
Halo going down to asking.
The burst damage just really hurt there. Gods didn't want to self-destruct that early, kind of had to under pressure. Shriek, get a Primal Rage into the back, Hypnot down. And second wind might be able to pull this back off the craft of ice, but
I mean,
man,
Shriek picking up Swimmer there was probably like the most important frag. Shriek now dropping the bubble, isolating. Second wind stabilizing here. They stopped the snowball. Something that's really risky for Gibraltar and so important for every team throughout every meta is when teams are able to get set up forward and hold aggressively and deny you space on second of Gibraltar, it is so hard to recontest the cart.
It's definitely an interesting stage where like it's very favorable the snowballs in the beginning, but the defense also, if they stop that,
then it's so strong. Especially with this Nano on Sharik, he's going to drop down and get a ton of cleave damage.
There's going to Nano Sharik and let it fly, and Sharik, I mean, tons of cleave damage, not actually as much as he probably would have liked there. Instead, just going to be chasing and Asking's in danger, just barely able to back off.
I would say he's at a pretty solid cleave damage now. He's close to that primal again.
And 62% Primal Rage coming out here early from Uprising. Hypnot looking for a bit of disruption. Bubble invested, and second wind just going to disengage a little bit. Heads back and slapped right in there, even as he was trying to invest even more. So Uprising thrown back a bit. Dino going to be taken down, and second wind getting control of this fight.
And the best part about that sleep is that second wind played the sleep extremely well. They make sure that Hypnot stays on the ground. He's not active, which means there's no presence onto the second wind backline, and they can move forward extremely aggressively.
Not only that, second wind, they've built up quite a bit of a reserve here going into the next fight. Uprising, they're drained. Uprising obviously swapping more to a standard 3-3 setup here, but 2.5 minutes, and they have a long way to go.
The problem with a standard 3-3 setup on this map is that if you're just running to point, Bird sitting on the high ground, getting these nanos along with the antis are just going to make your life so incredibly hard. You only have one person to contest high ground, and it's Punk, really.
Also, this is a much better setup for Sharik on the Primal to disrupt, and moves in, the poop coming in, almost putting Hypnot in a unrecoverable position.
That's caught.
Yeah, and he has to drop the self-destruct just to get back in the mech. It's not ideal in the least. The grab coming up from Second Wind as they take advantage of the chaos. They get Klaus. And Second Wind, they want a little bit more. They're going to invest the nano boost, and Sharik just casually walking over Uprising.
And Bird is doing so much with these antis. He gets the anti onto Klaus when in that solo grab. Then he gets the anti onto Hypnot, allowing his team to pick up these frags despite the trance being out. This is the problem of having Bird be allowed to sit on high ground and only Punk can contest because the antis are denying this heal value.
Yeah, I mean, going to what we talked about earlier with Ana and how Ana benefits when people aren't able to easily dive her. I mean, the only person that can move over there is Punk, and frankly, Punk has had bigger issues.
Second Wind, I wouldn't be surprised to see them commit both the Primal and the Diva Bomb here. There's a really early grab, just catching Halo as he goes for the boop.
Yeah, they just decide, nope, we're going to isolate Lucio early on, give ourselves a 6v5, and all right, it's not the worst opening.
Not a great value, though, because even though Halo had that beat, he's going to be back pretty soon.
He's going to be back, but at least it let Uprising get through to a small extent. Sharik, Primal's just in the nick of time, got pretty low, Primaling. Now, a little bit more disruption. Second Wind saying we want to do this. Halo's back in town, drops the beat. Uprising, countering with the beat of their own, but and again, a big Bionade going on to the back.
Also, the bubble. Sharik blocks Shatter from Hypnot.
Really good. Now grab back the other way for Second Wind. They dive over. Self-destruct trying to buy time. And even though it gets two, it's too late. As Second Wind, they do too much damage even before the effects of that Punk Bomb can be felt.
That was so good for Second Wind. Continuing to get value out of these antis. Sharik blocking that Shadow for Hypnot was pretty potentially fight changing right there. And now Second Wind, they stabilize. They're going to get healed back up. Bird will have another anti, or not another anti, another nano.
Final 20 seconds here for Uprising. What do they do?
I mean, they don't have a lot of time to rotate. They actually have to take the fight to cart and please deny the anti. Dino he has trance. They need to deny the anti. They don't!
No, they don't! And now Sharik gets the dive in. Swimmer, super low, on a whim and a prayer. Transcendence gonna come out in time. Gonna be undoing the effects of the anti as it goes away. They're able to heal up, asking, dropping and grab his own, looking for a bit of fall through there, and they do get speedily at a minimum. Sharik's disruption, not enough. Two picked off from the Uprising, and the Uprising not quite done yet.
And that was extremely well played from Swimmer and the rest of Boston right there. They get the anti, and Swimmer just runs lower. They can't pick him up. They're able to survive there. Sharik can't hard commit into that lower area. Uprising now, they're in a good position. They have second.
Uprising going to be bringing this to point C. And remember what we mentioned earlier on is that 3-3 might have issues in point A and point B. But point C, it's a little bit more wide open, and Uprising, they're already on the composition that they would like to be on here.
Well, not just wide, it's really not even so much about the wide openness, but also because the verticality and the ease of access to high ground is so much better than it is on the other 2 points.
So Second Wind, they do have a barrier in reserve. Ice almost with their grab. Klaus almost gets poked down. That was heavy damage coming in from Bird on the outside. Hypnot can drop the Shadow under pressure, but the pressure might be okay. It forced out the barrier. And that barrier actually just in the nick of time to prevent them from getting extra off of that Shadow.
Yeah, very good barrier from Halo. Uprising, though, using that Shadow to essentially allow them to have 2 support ults now. Now they have to make a choice. Do they engage aggressively, hoping they can catch a pick, potentially on Ice or Gods, before that combo comes out, or do they play reactively, play it slow, and use both of them to survive the combo?
Let's see what choice is taken here. Second Wind going to be a little bit further back. Uprising, Graviton ready for asking, and if they're going for the combo, they might go for it right now. Asking, waiting for the opportunity. Heavy damage going to Hypnot. Hypnot almost falling early, force out the Transcendence, and they layer support ults. Uprising was spooked, but it still might be okay. Their combo going to work out very well. They clean sweep on Second Wind.
It's going to be a tough recontest for Second Wind. It's going to be extremely tough. There's people stacked on the cart for Second Wind. They do have the ults they need, though.
Bird is going to have to just race car out of here. Transcend immediately. Should have time. Shadow coming from Hypnot. He was hoping to catch Bird. Bird, though, going to be able to get out in the nick of time. Graviton in. Gods dropping the self-destruct. Right over to the other side. Picks off 3. And Second Wind able to get back over into the point. They just barely had enough time.
Huge bash from Speedily. Might not have been as big a bomb from Gods as Speedily was not able to get that bash onto Hypnot. So really, really important.
One thing I have to ask here, I mean, that was a lot that they had on board. But would that fight have been any different if Uprising did not lair both support ults leading into the last fight, where the Uprising was scared? They're just like, this is not going the way we want. They lair support ults.
I mean, a perfectly timed beat can theoretically, especially for your tanks, can mitigate a lot, can actually keep you alive through the bomb. If it's perfectly timed, it's unlikely, but it is definitely something that it's a game changer. So having that beat could have been pretty big. Could have been pretty big for Uprising. I don't think the Trance wouldn't have really mattered because Trance does not stop that burst damage, but beat does because you get all that extra health on top.
So things that Uprising may look back on, but still, Uprising, I'll say this, it was kind of heroic that they're even able to get through point B.
It is.
Second Wind had their number throughout a lot of that. I mean, Uprising, I thought their early attack on point A was pretty innovative, not too shabby at all, just taking advantage of the unique advantages of the map, but they got stalled out really heavily in Second Wind, and you know, you talked about mid-match about the Ana play. Do you think that the Ana was the main reason why they're having huge issues as they tried to move
I don't
in?
necessarily think it was the main reason, but Second Wind played it extremely well, so they were getting a lot of value out of it. You could have seen similar results with a Xin, but Ana, because of this high ground, because of how the defensive setup is for Gibraltar, does give you a lot of extra viability, a lot of extra just outcomes and outplayability from all those support ults.
One thing I note there is I also think the Ana helped out Sharik, where he's been kind of rough and on the Winston here so far today, but when you get Nano, that really evens out your ult curve.
Especially when you're entering the point, because you can get so much cleave damage on that entry. Sharik getting the bubble, testing high ground, and now it's just Second Wind just trying to move this cart past this initial high ground.
So Uprising again, running the Widow Hanzo, but Second Wind, they're just focusing on the objective, staying around the payload, now in an area where line of sight is pretty rough. It's going to be up to Uprising to land shots as they come out of the underpass.
And right now, Uprising, they're just holding this high ground, having their double sniper set up here, try to get value while their tanks just ping-pong off the cart.
It's been a bit ugly for Asking. He had some good opportunities there, wasn't quite able to land the key edge I was looking for, but on the other side, Sharik dives in and just eats a whole load of storm arrows right to the gut, and Klaus taking control of the fight.
Klaus doing a lot of damage there, Asking also getting those crucial headshots. Uprising are playing this the correct way, where you can't overcommit your tanks. You need to be making sure that when Hypnot drops, he has his cooldowns to get out, and also Punk is there to enable him, as your double DPS, your double snipers are just trying to get any pick they can.
And one thing for Winston's as well, when you're used to the damage output of 3-3, do you get caught off guard a bit when you run into a Hanzo and suddenly, you know, Storm Arrow burst?
For sure, it is something that can catch you off guard here, but it should be something they're aware of. These are a lot of these are veteran players.
So, Dragon Strike going to be coming out here. Second Wind a little bit as Bird gets chunked. So is Sharik. Sharik really low to start this out, and Second Wind having just a lot of trouble moving in. Bird finally going to get caught by Klaus. The poke presence coming in from Uprising has been very good.
And Second Wind they're not really quite sure how to approach this yet, partially because of all this damage coming out from Klaus and Asking, but because like their Uprising is holding the box. We call it blue box a lot of times is the term. This blue box on the top right where we're Asking currently is, it allows the snipers to get so much value. It stops, it's like a launch point as well for the tanks of Second Wind to move and contest that backline for Uprising. So as long as Uprising are holding it, it makes Second Wind's approach so much harder.
And for Second Wind, I feel like the enemy that they need to suppress here more than anything else, it's been Klaus.
Oh yes, for sure. Klaus has been doing so much.
Well, we're going to see them move in here. Early rally being used. Sharik under heavy fire. Going to be popping Primal once it gets a little bit lower. Barrier going to be coming in for Second Wind, so they're investing a lot to move in here. On the other side for Uprising. Transcendence down. Valkyrie still in progress. They're pushed back, but no one falls to their poke. Dragon going to be unleashed here. Splitting up Second Wind a bit. Klaus still totally okay. Not under pressure. Now it goes back the other way where Second Wind has to back up a bit. Barrier is eating a lot of damage. Sharik deciding he's going to dive in again. They find Dino early. And now at the man advantage, it's looking a bit better for Second Wind.
Yes, especially while Sharik is contesting the high ground, making sure Klaus can't get any more value. Swimmer gets the res on Dino, but the fight's over. There's going to be extremely hard to recontest. Asking goes down. There are no ults up for Uprising. That will be first for Second Wind. An okay time, and they're getting stagger kills. I wouldn't be surprised if the Uprising makes swaps.
Well, you say you might be seeing swaps, and guess what? We're seeing swaps. They are going with the different approach than what Second Wind here. Second Wind went with the Ana Winston instead. Uprising just going with the classical 3-3 setup here. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, the Dino was already on Zen. Is realistically the easiest solution for that. Dino was already on Zen. He has that ult charge already. You really only commit to the Ana after you've already had it on first.
Does make sense. And I mean, it is worth knowing, Ana is something that Dino can play. It's actually the hero that kind of really became known for, but already heavy aggression coming in here from second wind. Going to be forcing out Punk to self-destruct just to keep mech. But while that's going on, we have the Grav come in, Ice there in the cleanup, and second wind just easily moving through. And I feel like we've seen this a lot from Punk, where he gets out of position and just uses self-destruct for the remech versus using it for a grander purpose.
It could also just be strong focus fire for second wind, because you remember second wind just looked stronger a little bit in the 3v3 matchup a lot of these times. So it could just be better focus fire, but for sure Punk hasn't been in the best position. This denial from Sharik on the door means Uprising couldn't contest at all.
Door presence very, very good there as Uprising tried to go together from the other side. Doesn't quite work out, and second wind again just taking unchecked aggression forward, and by getting through point B so quickly, they've given themselves a very considerable time advantage.
Sharik probably going to be going back, making the swap onto Reinhardt now that they're on the third point on that point C. Asking 76% to grab, but Ice already 50% to another after just using it.
Second wind here with the payload. Uprising, Graviton up. See what Asking does here. Early Grav going to be coming out here, and second wind immediately spawning with the Transcendence, so Graviton thrown into the Abyss. Transcendence haven't been invested to deal with it, so it is a trade back and forth. But look at that, Punk went really deep. They had to use Bubble on him just to keep him alive, but meanwhile, they don't have Bubble for the rest of the front line. Shatter, though, coming in from Hypnot. Uprising going in there, but they're not able to get the kill they want. Instead, the Bear's going the other way. Ice going to drop the Grav. Here comes self-destruct from Gods. Over the top, here we go. Connects! And that might be the game there, as second wind is going to very heavily take this fight.
I mean, they have Shatter. Bird's already 70% to another Trance. There wasn't a combo up for that grab for Uprising, because remember, Punk had demeched earlier on second. Uprising have to get out the touch. They have two ults. They have combo.
Uprising moving out, Asking, dropping the Grav on a whim and a prayer. Is the fall through going to be there? No, Hypnot just gets chunked.
Where's
he tries to move in? The bomb comes in way late again. But it still gets two. The problem is so many people have fallen. The payload doesn't have far to go. Can any respawns get back in? No, they can't. Second wind taking Gibraltar, and that's going to be the series.
I mean, Asking drops the Grav, catches two, and even though Punk manages to get to with the bomb after, you're recontesting. Yeah. You're recontesting the point, streaming out from spawn while everything is held by second wind, all the entries. You have to drop bomb. Because if the bomb was out, then maybe the Shadow isn't as strong as it was from Sharik there to clean up a lot of his frags. The combo's out. You need to make space for your team. That bomb came a little too late for my liking.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like the use of self-destruct in general for Uprising, probably one of the weaker parts of the course of the series in terms of like clean, crisp combos that we were seeing from the other side. So I'd say overall, I mean, it just kind of goes into our aspect that Uprising's tank frontline not as coordinated as what we saw from the other side.
However, Hypnot does look individually good.
Yes.
I think Hypnot individually looks pretty strong for Uprising, but it's clear that in terms of their overall coordination, they're not at the same level.
Well, there were some fights where Hypnot just outright got robbed, right? Where he landed a good shatter, but the follow-through wasn't there from the team, or basically we saw an overcommittal of resources from the other side to make up for it, and they weren't really punished for it. I totally agree. I think Hypnot on an individual level had some good moments here. The challenge here in a 3-3 setup is that it has to be the entire team together. Everyone has to be on the same page, and it's also why you really look at this meta. It's probably one of the best metas ever as a coach to show your stuff, because coaching and having a well-prepared team right now matters more than really, I think, any other meta we've ever seen in Overwatch.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and engaging, making sure your teams understand how engagements are working, understand, that aggression, counter-aggression dynamic that happens a lot in 3-3 is so important in how you set up those combos, which is pure coaching.
Yeah.
You can make the argument in Dive where, if you're playing against like London and Prophet and Birdwing are just winning because they're just the best, there's nothing you can do when you're just getting outclassed mechanically. You can't teach how to aim, but you can teach how to engage. You can teach how to set up ults. So when we see those deficiencies in teams, there's really nothing else to look at unless players just aren't learning, unless players just aren't taking into account what is being told to them.
Well, guys, that was our first match of the day, but don't go anywhere. We still got 3 more matches left to go. It's going to be a long night of Overwatch. Please stay here with us, but we'll be back in a few short minutes.